Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I am your co-host, JP John Poz, from the two-man power trip of wrestling. Of course, joining me here each and every week is a star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great today, John. We were just talking a little bit earlier about this rain and snow and sleet and tornadoes and hurricanes going on everywhere. But I made it back tonight, and JPWA is alive and well. Doing great.
Nice, love it. Any surprise appearances this week at JPWA?
I don't think any surprise appearances, but we did get the class started Monday, and everybody showed up. Nice class, good looking people, and we got everybody registered. The mayor was there for a bit, said hello to everybody, and then we got down to a business, which was very nice to see. I mean, a lot of enthusiastic, wide-eyed people that weren't sure what to expect. That's a great thing. They don't know what to expect when they walk in the door because I don't know what they've heard or just it's left to your imagination because they walk in expecting one thing and get something not always completely different, but not exactly what they've been told.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I take that approach with every class, and they're not sure what to expect, or they're not even sure what they went through after about 12 weeks. This one here, the last class of 2021, is only 10 weeks, but it looks like a really good group of guys and gals in this one.
That's funny because at work, somebody asked me, like, hey, do you know what to expect? Like, they were doing some course and some training stuff. And I was like, it's a good point. I was like, I have no idea. What do I expect? Like,
Right.
people should always ask that. Like, what should
Yeah.
I expect?
And I think even though you don't know what to expect, embrace what you get and
Yeah.
be passionate about it. And if it's not for you, it's not your cup of tea, then make that decision. But yeah, I number one, my first priority is safety, and second is always to have fun. And if you're not having fun, don't enjoy this, and it's going to hurt a lot worse, and you're going to really be. Um, Disappointed, I think, when you finish. So don't do it unless it's not fun. And if you don't like hard work and you don't want to do the drills and do things where you have to fall down, then maybe this isn't for you. So people find out one way or the other, and it's always fascinating for me to see the people who come in and then the ones who come to the realization and don't have the disillusionment um, and stick with it. So those who don't like the routine and don't like the drills and things like that, they'll figure it out soon enough, and some just won't show up. But we've been very fortunate, so I'm not gonna. I don't want to paint it with a bad brush or a negative brush at all. We've been very fortunate for the past 3 years, and the people who come, a lot of the ones who say that, well, all the ones who say they're passionate are very passionate and work hard. And I'm looking forward to this group working hard, having a fun time.
Now, when you get surprise appearances like a Sean Bennett, who's a referee for WWE, or Natalia, or Sheamus, or Undertaker, do you tell your students we have a surprise, or you just let them show up and
So yeah, sometimes I let them know we might have a special guest just so they know to be there. And in some of the kids who are injured or some of the guys who might be hurt sitting out, I just want to let everybody know you would be. It would do you good to show up Thursday night. It would do you good to show up Tuesday night because you never know who's going to walk in, and we say that all the time. But I like to let them know so they don't miss an opportunity. I think it's important to hear the guys who do stop by. It's important to hear their input and their opinions. And I don't really believe I'm training or teaching any differently than I did when I started. I have some acerbic words and have an acerbic tongue sometimes, and I say things probably that are inappropriate for mixed ages. But we only have, if you're over 18 in this class, so you understand what you're getting into. I would hope. And it's just my way of teaching, my way of doing things. Sometimes I am a little more forceful, and sometimes I'm a little louder. But at the same time, I'm doing it to push the class, and I'm doing it to push the people in it. And good players want to be coached. Great players want to be told the truth, and that's another character defect I might have is I will tell you the truth in hopes that you'll see it for yourself and get better. Some do, and then again, some don't.
Very true. Now, do you watch AEW at all? I know you're a very busy man, busy schedule, but do you watch any AEW?
I have caught glimpses, but I don't watch on a regular basis. No, I don't have the time. While it's on, we're usually in class.
Oh, yeah, it's true. And even Friday nights is really late, so
yes, it
not
is.
a great time slot.
No, but I'm aware of who's been there. Some of our guys have passed through. Some of our guys are on. Is it After Dark? Now, I've seen some of the After Dark stuff on the internet and YouTube, things like that. So I'm aware of the talent and some of the people that are there, and I'm aware of what the CM Punk movement has done for wrestling fans. And other than that, that's all I know.
It's interesting. I just saw online before that Dark this past week, Blue Meanie and Crowbar were on the YouTube show. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Bringing in guys for their YouTube show.
Well, that's very cool. And while it may not be everybody's cup of tea, I'm glad there is a place for all the guys to go if they're not happy in another place. Or the companies out there that are, I don't even know who's doing well and who's not, like Ring of Honor and TNA, Impact. Gosh, I really don't know. From watching on TV, I'll read the internet, read the news sites, and hear rumors and hear things from other people. But I don't know until I'm there, and I don't know until I'm there seeing it live in living color in front of my steaming eyes. But I do know what the people are telling and saying on the news sites and how the rumors are going around that one is better than the other, or they're all really horrible. And we all have our opinions on that. So I don't watch AEW so much, and I haven't had a chance to see WWE except glimpses and on occasion too lately.
Well, this past week, and the topic of today will be Brodie Lee, a.k.a. Luke Harper, a.k.a. John Huber. So this past week on AEW, they actually did a bit of a tribute show. They were in Rochester, New York, basically his hometown, where he grew up, where he was trained. And it's funny, I just talked to H.C. Loke, who was a part of his training, which is great. And he was at that show backstage, but they had a nice tribute to him. His wife was there. His son was there. It seemed like a very nice, good tribute. Like there wasn't, like sometimes WB does it and you wonder if it's self-serving or if they're trying to make money off of it. This was nice, sweet, like very kind-hearted tribute to him.
Well, I think any tribute like that especially should be kind-hearted and should be well-intentioned and should be done with passion and love and respect. And from what I've seen and from what I know, the little bit that I do know, it's obvious Tony Khan's a wrestling fan. It's obvious the guys there are feel a little more free to express themselves. And what they did for Brodie Lee, especially when he passed away, for not only his wife but his young son and family, I think says a lot about the character of those guys in AEW. And it's good to see. I'm glad to see it, and it might be a trend they continue. It might be something that they become known for, they being AEW and the crew that they keep adding to the company. So for Brodie Lee, especially when I knew him in Florida, when I knew him in Tampa, he was that kind of guy that you enjoyed being around because he was passionate. To me, he was very engaging and an integral part of the whole developmental system at that time. And that, I think, again, came up with Bray Wyatt and
Eric Rowan.
Eric Rowan. So that without those two guys, you could have Bray Wyatt, but I don't think it would have been the same because you had those two monsters who were being controlled mind over matter with Bray Wyatt. So Brodie was a big part of that. He was who he portrayed. He wasn't playing a part or a character, and that was the cool thing about it. He was having fun. He was passionate about his place in the business at that time, from what I saw, and always the kind of guy you wanted to be around, and knew that he was all about making everybody on the card better, everybody in the back better, and having that positive encouragement and vibe with him. And that was it was very nice to see when AEW paid the first tribute to him when he passed away. And I knew they were going to have a tribute this weekend with him, or last weekend, but I didn't get a chance to see it. So it's a good thing they did, though.
Yeah, it was nice. It was good. I feel like all their stuff is pretty genuine when AEW does it. But when is the first time you met him? Was it FCW, I guess? It would be after his Ring of Honor stint?
Yeah, it was FCW. I was aware of Brodie before he came in, and I like the character. I like the persona. I like the person behind that character or persona. He was a real deal, and always seemed genuine to me, and always was genuine, obviously. That everybody enjoyed, everybody liked. So I think he was one of those big guys who got frustrated at a few points and moments in his career, no doubt, and that happens with everybody at one point or another. But he never had a bad attitude, always kept his head up, and always came in ready to work hard. Those kind of guys are the guys who will make it no matter what, because they're going to work past the pain. They're going to work past the disappointments, and they're going to always find something on the other side. So with a guy like Brodie Lee, you were in good hands anytime you stepped in the ring. And you anytime you wanted to put him against somebody else, you knew who the ring general was going to be, and it was going to be Brodie. So, yeah, he was a pleasure to be around, and a good guy to talk to, a good guy to for promos and ideas. Again, you can't hide passion. You can't fake passion. And he was very passionate about wrestling, and it was always good to see. You love what you love. I loved working with people who have the passion, who have the desire and the drive to be better. So that juiced us up too as coaches.
It's interesting, like the names they give you in WWE, FCW, NXT. The name generator thing, I always joke around and say that, like, just random names. Any idea where Luke Harper came from and why that was his name there, and why it wasn't well, I guess Brodie Lee, because they can't own it, but it's weird. Sometimes it's weird, like what happens there with the names. It just doesn't make sense, or it's just two random names thrown together.
I believe that's the business side of things, just wanting to own the name, obviously, and I don't know if it was that deep, but there were a couple other coaches there at the time who wanted to I offer ideas, I guess, because when it all comes down to the different names, and you're right, there's a lot of randomness that goes on, no doubt, but it's because they want to own all the intellectual property and have no issues. Once everybody would love to stay forever and ever and ever, but forever and ever, it really doesn't exist once you leave that company or any other company. I believe that might be the case. So I don't know necessarily about how Brodie Lee came about, but at that time there were some other influences that offer suggestions and ideas, and obviously the powers that be liked him. So. And he looks like a Brodie Lee. He looks like one of those guys that you don't want to mess with. And as you're walking down a happy Appalachian trail and run into this big guy and Eric Rowan, I can't imagine Bray Wyatt being with him too. So they looked menacing. They looked dangerous. They looked like they were looking for a place to cause doom, destruction, and disaster everywhere they set foot. So it was very apropos, if you ask me. It really was.
So he gets there in 2012, basically the beginning of the year. but then it's rebranded NXT towards the end of the summer. So did you only spend maybe like 6 months or so with him?
Okay, I got fired May December 12th. So that tells you. Yeah.
So only a few months with him then. Okay.
Yeah. But I had known him before. I mean, I had known him before he was coming into FCW. Not personally, but I had known of him, and we were familiar with the guy. So it worked. It just I didn't have a whole lot of interaction because they said, we don't need your services anymore, sir.
Right.
And talking about names, I mean, I had a great name in there too for not too long.
Dr.
WWE.
No. Dr.
Well, no, you know what I'm talking about.
Zip?
Yeah, you know what? You didn't have to say it, John, but yes, that's what I'm talking about. So everything else was copyrighted, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, go ahead.
They're weird. Very weird with the names.
They're good people. I love everyone. I love you all. Love you.
With him, did you think like, okay, they're going to do something with him because he's big? He almost fits the mold of like that typical Vince guy you always hear about. Oh, he's big. He's a monster. He's 6'5", that kind of thing.
Well, that too. You look at the guy. Obviously, physically, he looks like everything WWE would want, no doubt. And the thing was, he had the talent as well. And I don't know what was happening with him because I really wasn't there that long with him. But you can usually, if you sit back and look, and you see the position on the card, and you obviously, I don't believe half the stuff I hear, and the other half I certainly just discount and throw away. But sometimes you hear rumors and you hear about rumblings and you hear about not being happy. And what couldn't you be happy about? Well, it's not as glamorous getting on a plane at 5 a.m. and flying somewhere and being delayed, having to get off, get a rental car, find a place to eat, find the gym, find a hotel, or get ready to go for the next 350-mile drive or 250. I'm not sure what the limit is these days. But a lot of that, I think, goes back to the culture we're in today. It's always been, traveling has always been a part of this job, part of being a wrestler, and part of going out and making your name. And then the airports aren't a whole lot of fun these days. There's a lot of issues and a lot of things you have to do just to get up to make your day, and it's a complete day. People don't understand it. They believe it's glitz and glamour. And when you have a family at home, when we have a wife who you actually love or you want to see, being on the road could become a drag if you're there and there's other stressors that we're not aware of and other issues that you got to take care of. And so, I mean, who knows what was going on with one company, and then obviously the other company is trying to make it more appealing to guys who want a different type schedule and who want people who are interested. And I don't know the mechanics or what's going on at AEW backstage. I don't know what's going on in WWE backstage these days, but just surmising and guessing and having an opinion, and that's all this is. I could see where you could be burned out on travel one place and wanting to go to another place where it's an easier schedule, or at least a different schedule that you could fit family time in or lifetime in and do what you want to do. In the old days, it used to be where this was it and this consumed your life. It still is like that, but I think they're learning, they being management is learning that it might be better if you schedule things and work things out to where everybody has a better home life ratio or home life work ratio, whatever it may be. Once again, I'm just surmising and guessing here because I obviously haven't been in either company for a while. So I don't know how he felt about it. I don't know how a lot of boys feel about it today, but I know from my limited travel, it's not the same. It's not as fun as it used to be, if it ever was for some people.
And AEW for right now is kind of lucky. It's only 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week. I know you're not working as much, not getting enough reps, but It's either 1 or 2 days a week. If the pay-per-view, you may work 3 times a week. It's easier schedule for sure.
Easier schedule, and I think they also allow their guys to do independent shots if they want to. So that's good too. And a lot of the guys there certainly do need reps. They're young guys, and the way the business really is learned is like anything else. You have to go out and do it in front of people. You have to get that live experience, and you do have to get reps in. If you can't do it live all the time, if you can find where you were trained at or find a ring to get in, that's the next best thing, no doubt. But it really is a different business model today, and obviously for the better in that case, where if you're working one or two times a week for one company, and then you can get booked the rest of the week across the country if you have that much of a buzz about you and people are talking and looking and giving news about what you're doing, where you're at, well, then, you're making progress. You should be. And whatever your goal is, have a plan and work towards that. But the business model today, yeah, obviously a lot easier for the guys. But the way you're really going to learn is get in the ring and wrestle every single night. And I believe a guy like Brodie Lee, even at his size, he loved taking bumps and he loved to wrestle. And he loved to go out and tell a story. He was a great heel. He was a very giving heel. I do know that. And it was about making the match. So, yeah, I think it's one of those things where as a big guy, you're going to go in there and you have opportunities, and obviously John took advantage of them until he wasn't feeling it anymore, and then he got another shot over at AEW. So that's about what I got with John.
With him, do you know who made up the Wyatt family? It seems like a Dusty Rhodes thing.
Oh, what now?
The Wyatt family. That just seems like Dusty created it.
Well, I've got to be honest on that too. I'm not sure if it was either Dream or another coach, or if it was Regal. Regal had some ideas about that too, and a lot of people had input, but Dusty certainly. I would have to say that Bray Wyatt himself came up with that gimmick. I mean, he's not so far away from the person behind the persona. It's really, really not. And Luke Harper isn't too far away from who John Huber was or Eric Rowan really is. There's elements to all three of those guys that was true and coming out during those promos and during their appearances in the ring. That's what I think made this whole setup a lot more authentic and a lot more true than just a couple big guys or three big guys going out there trying to play like they're backwoods, dark preacher type, whatever you want to call them, Cape Fear people.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand those kind of people actually exist. They do. The snake charmers, here, if we dance with snakes, we handle snakes. And if it bites us, God will protect us. That's the type imagery that I saw with the Wyatt family. It's optics, and they look the optics perfectly to me, as far as those guys that have this notion and very cult-like and know how to put together the words and the sentences and the pauses and the paragraphs and the fire and brimstone and the body language. It was working. So it might have also been, I'm sure it was, in fact, a lot of Wyndham Rotundo, and American Dream, no doubt, could pick up on that. But that has to be a special part of your persona that's authentic and real. And it was with John Harper, with Brodie Lee. It was. And so I think, however you look at it, the Wyatt family was put together as a package for a reason. You have to put the right package together. And I think all those three guys, kind of like the New Day, same thing. You had three guys who connect with each other, and it's authentic and it's real. And the New Day is going out there joking and smoking, and Bray Wyatt is going out there hooting and talking about the haunted dogs over on the west wing of the bar or something like that. I don't know. But it was real because Brodie Lee and Eric Harper were those guys with that faraway look and that monster look and wearing the mask and then taking them off and going, there's a possibility. Even though we know it's showbiz and even though we know it's professional wrestling, there's a possibility these guys are a little deeper than everybody else. You know what I mean? And that's what they portrayed. So when you ask me who if it was a Dusty Rhodes idea, well, Dream was a lot deeper than people knew too. And I think it was a collaboration of more than just one person on that deal. So
I kind of like the look because they almost look like an 80s team, like the actual physical appearance of them and the way they were dressed, but like in modern times. So they're like an old school but new school kind of flavor. And obviously Waylon Mercy, Bray Wyatt, was doing, that Cape Fear like gimmick, but more modern though. Cool
well,
gimmick.
Yeah, and the fact is, I think when people in the entertainment business look at other people in the entertainment business, they're looking for a flaw. They're looking for a crack or a chink in the armor. And when you look at Bray Wyatt, and you listen to him, he also talked in riddles and rhymes and gave you a reason to believe he was unpredictable. And even though the what was the program? The Bray Wyatt Funhouse. I'm sorry. The Funhouse.
Yeah.
Firefly Funhouse. Yes, sir. I was having a hard time remembering that name too. But the Firefly Funhouse. A lot of people didn't like it, but a lot of people did. And not just anybody can pull something like that off. Being that guy, being the, hey, look at me, and then going into a classic wrestling heel gimmick, whatever it may be. You are only as good as you believe you are, I believe. Allow myself to introduce myself. No. But Bray Wyatt was comfortable. He was comfortable in that role. I believe Eric and Brodie Lee were comfortable in that role. And people know when you're comfortable. People know when you're playing a part. People know when you're just reciting words, reciting lines. And these were seamless and real to the point that when they're talking, they're telling you a story. They're talking. He's comfortable. Bray Wyatt is comfortable in front of people, preaching and trying to recruit and do whatever he has to do. And all he's saying is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And Dream was certainly into characters like that. Dream was certainly into people who transcended just one element or just one dimension. Bray Wyatt could talk about this over here and that over there, and it could be just as crazy or just as wild or just as simple as a Jake Roberts promo, and you had to listen to it closely to get it, and maybe 2 or 3 times before you actually got it. And Jake Roberts did the same thing. Jake had that element of evil and eeriness and creepiness about him. And so did Bray Wyatt. And it was at the same time charming and engaging and would draw you in because you were interested in what that person was doing. Not necessarily the character, but the person who was breathing life into that character and not just being Wyndham Rotundo, but being Bray Wyatt and don't answer to Wyndham for about a week or however long it may be until you get home. You know, you're Bray Wyatt during that time, you're Brodie Lee and you're Eric Rowan, and it takes a special connection. It takes a special, synchronicity with 3 people, and they're all on the same page, and you don't have to think about it. They know it, they recite it, they feel it. They talk about it later, and not in ways of, wow, what'd you think of that move? No, like, how can we make this better? What's a little more crazy or mysterious that we can add to this where people go, that's different. And so that's I think that's still the key with anything on any channel, from Impact to AEW, WWE. You have to have authentic characters, and you got to believe it and have the guys who are committed to it, and where there's no question, even though when they go home, they may go home and take their jacket off, but they don't take the skin off, and they don't take the attitude off. So that's a key thing that I think helped with Brodie Lee to fit into, because he was that non-classic grappler / wrestler. He was more of those the brawler, the big guy, the kick-ass guy. And I don't know what happened in the end when they become the Bludgeon Brothers, but that was more or less you could see where that was going really quick. So he's given opportunities, but once again, when it falls into that, I could see where the unhappiness would come too. So,
kind of a strange run, just booking wise, because you look at him, you're like, okay, easy home run, the size. Even though they don't let him talk, I've seen him before. He could talk very well. So, like, even if he was put in that situation, he could handle it. But it's weird. They're NXT Tag Team Champs. They obviously they lose them, but they get called up. They're the Wyatt family, but only for a short amount of time. Then they split up the Wyatt family, like in a year or something like that. It was crazy. Then he wins the Intercontinental title. So, like, okay, a little bit of push. He loses it right back to Ziggler after he beats him. So it's like a weird start to his run there. It's almost like they don't know what to do with some guys, even though to us, maybe just me as fans, like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I know exactly what they just seem lost with some guys.
Well, and once again, here's the thing I always tell people too: you never know what's going on. Nobody really knows until they're there, or unless they are right there listening to the to what's happening and who's saying what and who's doing what. So it could be something on the writing team where somebody doesn't see it. And I don't think John had I could be wrong, because the boys loved him, and I'm sure he had allies with the agents or office. But whatever it is, when you're presented with something you're not feeling, you have to not only say something about it, but have a better idea. And maybe he didn't. Maybe, I don't know the case. I don't know the circumstances. But if you say, hey, we'd like to call you Bozo, and we want you to come out with a diaper and nothing else. Well, if you don't like that, you need to have a better idea, or think about it and come up with something and offer it up. But if you don't, if you just accept things, then you're going to do what they ask you to do. Is it going to work if your heart's not into it? From my experience, not necessarily. In fact, a solid no for me. So, once again, I wasn't privy to how he was feeling, how John was feeling at the time. But, it happens with everybody there. And at least he found his way to the other company, to another place where he was with his friends, and he was having a good time, it seemed like, and offered up an even bigger role than he had at WWE.
With him too, because it's like, thinking to myself, slam dunk, everybody in the back likes him. Does that ever work against the guy? Because you always see, remember they were all wearing like shirts. This is years ago, taking pictures, wearing shirts of his and stuff. Does that actually work against the guys? Like the writing team or some of the office were like, oh, everyone likes him backstage. Like, oh, screw that, we don't like it. Like, you know what I mean? Does that ever almost work against them?
I'm not sure if I've never witnessed that myself, but I think with anybody, and everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their favorites and not so favorites on the writing team. I guess I'm only assuming again, but I think if everybody likes you backstage and nobody goes to bat for you, then that doesn't matter so much. But if you have people who love you backstage and want to work with you and go to the office and say, hey, man, book us with these guys because we can do some great business. We got a great idea for this. And pitch it to who you need to pitch it to. Then it's up to them to get it to Vince or whoever needs to listen to the idea and then sell it. And if they can't sell it to whoever's going to make the decision, then you need to come up with a better angle or need to come up with a better approach. Because it really is, it's about backstage and it is about understanding the attitude. And why should someone be put in an angle or in a position when they don't feel as strongly about it? In other words, if they give you an offer and it doesn't sound really good to you and you don't have anything else, but you take that offer, well, then they're done. There you go. That's the direction you're going. And if it doesn't work out, then it's your fault. But if it does work out, then it's because of them. So, I mean, there's a lot of the backstage stuff that is so it's show business. It's in show business is what it is. It's superficial and there's not a whole lot of oh man, how much I don't want to say it where I'm saying it the wrong way, John, because if I do, then I'm going to be in trouble. I don't want to be in trouble. But show business is show business, man, and it's still sports entertainment, and some of the most petty things, some of the most ridiculous things add up to, well, let's make this guy do this and let's make this guy do that. Don't know if that's happening now these days. Don't know if it was necessarily happening with Brodie Lee, but it does happen. So you figure it out, I guess. Backstage, everybody loved him. If they didn't have an angle for him, well, then it's up to you to come up with something that they can work with and you can make happen and show them that you do have an idea and you are creative. And you have to fight for what you believe in. You don't want to be delusional either, but you do have to fight for what you believe in. And you have to believe in yourself. You have to have confidence, which I know both Brodie and Eric Rowan did. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I wish I did, but at the same time, it wouldn't change anything. I'm just saying I wasn't there. I didn't hear anything about that, but it's obvious if you're happy, you're going to stay somewhere, and if you're not, you want to move.
Yeah, he had a weird. Then it got weird because they bring the Wyatt family back together. They do a cool thing with Orton, and Orton and him become tag team champs, and really leading to the Bray Wyatt Orton world title feud. But then, like you mentioned, then he becomes the Bludgeon Brothers, which is in essence, you think, okay, they're going to squash guys, and they're going to win the tag titles, and like they're just going to destroy people. But the outfit they were wearing was horrible. The gimmick was horrible. The name was horrible. It was like, man, are they trying to squash these guys but make them look good? But I don't know, it was such a weird feeling because you're like, wow, it's such a terrible 1970s gimmick.
I don't know that anybody intentionally, I really don't. I don't know that anybody intentionally is going to give somebody a bad gimmick to fail. I just that is really counterproductive for the whole thing. Right. And why would anybody do that?
Right.
I don't necessarily think that's the case. A lot of wrestling fans, a lot of guys also look and just say, how can you do that? Well, that's terrible. But I don't think whoever thought of that came up with that idea with the intention of saying, man, this is terrible and we can sink these guys. I really don't think that's the case. I don't think they had any heat backstage. Obviously, we talked about how the guys loved him. But sometimes, again, this is where it falls, and this is what you're offered. And there had to be other reasons that nobody else knew about, and nobody else hears. I don't think, contrary to popular belief, someone sits around a table and says, who can we bury? But they would sit around a table and says, well, who can we make a star? How's this guy doing? And who's watching the house show matches over here and sending reports about somebody else really standing out that night? That's why it's you should always go out and work for the job you want, the position you want, not the one you have. And it's a process of learning how to get over. It really, really is. And it's a process of understanding how it works. And it is a corporate organization, WWE. Let me say that. AEW, I guess, is a corporate organization too, but it is run a little more loosely with people who are going with their heart and emotions and feeling it and doing what they want to do. So that's a great thing, especially for the boys, because I think there should be a place where you don't have to walk in and immediately go over your match 14 times. You can come in and you can enjoy the wrestling business. You can go over your match, you can do business, and have fun at the same time. So
with him, it's funny because like they're not doing anything. He had some injuries, and as he's nearing the end of WWE, they bring him back randomly with Rowan against Daniel Bryan and Reigns. They end up losing. Then he ends up doing really nothing, and then he's in some random battle royal, and then he's cut or released. And it seemed like he was happy about it because here comes AEW. AEW would love to have him. It's one of those guys where it's like, okay, if one organization doesn't think this guy is who everyone fan base thinks he is, why don't we see who he is and let him be himself? And he becomes Brodie Lee, becomes this funny character, almost making fun of Vince McMahon a lot in the backstage promos, acting like Vince. He's got the suit on, looks like $1 million. He was a nice surprise appearance, the leader of the Dark Order. They really haven't been the same, obviously, without him. I mean, they're just not a good group without him at the helm. But he had a bunch of misfits, and he was turning them into something. It was just like a cool, fun gimmick. He was a TNT champion. He feuded with Cody Rhodes. So they actually saw the potential there, and he was like realizing it. And he was one of the top guys in AEW, obviously, until he unfortunately passed away. But he was definitely a main event player there.
Yeah, and once again, it's just seeing it through someone else's eyes. And AEW saw this guy as a top guy in WWE. He was well liked by everybody, and they found a place for him in AEW. And yeah, he did some comedy, but who knows what would have happened had he not passed on and had he been able to develop that even better. So he had his run, and obviously was overjoyed, I would think, to be signed by AEW, where you can not only enjoy your line of work again, enjoy the business, and enjoy having fun at the matches, but you'll be around your friends, and you'll get to make a whole different body of work that you wouldn't get to do in WWE. So I applaud the fact that AEW brought him over. I applaud the fact that he got to enjoy his time in the wrestling business. It's nobody can explain why things happen in life, but they do. And this is the way it happened. This is the way the cards were dealt. And it seems that AEW has continued on remembering his name, remembering his legacy, and honoring his son, honoring his wife. So you got to give those guys credit. And a lot of the stuff they do is what they do, and some people like it, some people don't. It may not be your cup of tea or not, but they do. The people there, I think, truly believe in the business, love the business for what they believe it is today, and do it their way, and unabashedly unashamed of what they do. They believe they're putting in a good product, as does anybody, I think, that puts their stuff on TV. You believe when you hand in your notes or whatever you're handing in or whatever you're suggesting that is the best for what you got that week or that day. And it's a continuing process. Anybody who thinks they can book a show, much less a TV on a weekly basis, 2 TVs, 5 hours 5 hours a week or whatever AEW does, plus all their extra programs, it's not easy. So The guys who go over and do what they do, no matter where it is, they're doing the best with what they have at that moment, the best in what they're thinking at that moment, their attitude, their feeling, their walk, their talk, whatever they do in the ring. That's the best they got right then. So AEW is doing the best they can every week. So is WWE, the best they can. I don't think Vince or anybody else truly enjoys going through 6 different rewrites. I don't think AEW would want to go through 6 different rewrites. So when I do have the opportunity to sit down and watch a program these days, I go in with that way of thinking. I'm thinking, man, these guys aren't going out just to shit the bed and show everybody, hey, look how horrible we are. I don't believe that's the case at all. I just believe there's a lot of elements that nobody sees. There's a lot of things that are going on and a lot of moving parts that nobody sees and nobody really hears about unless you're right there. That's something I learned a long time ago. If you're not right there and you didn't hear it come from the person's mouth, then it's hearsay. You don't know. It's a rumor. And a lot of people say, is Vince truly really trying to run WWE in the ground? That makes no sense. I don't think AEW is trying to run their product in the ground. I think they're giving what they believe their customers want. And if they are, great. I tell people all the time, I'm not the demo. They're not playing for me. But there's a lot of people out there who like it. And I've learned that more and more this year, too. People who come to JPWA. They like a lot of the stuff AEW is doing. Great. And that is what it is. But you have to understand, a lot of those guys didn't come to wrestling school the first day and start doing Hurricanranas or toupees. And they didn't do Hurricanranas or topes either. But it's all the same. So, regardless, AEW has done a great thing, not only for the memory of Brodie Lee, but in memory of his wife and son who are still with us and get to come out and enjoy his dad and her husband's passion and what was a big part of his life. It's a big part of anybody's life who gets into this business and does it full time and works hard, and especially to support his wife and son. So they did a great thing. They continue to do a great thing, and I'm sure as the years go by, they're going to continue as long as John's wife and son want to continue. So more power to AEW, more power to WWE, and more power to all the companies out there that are offering guys a place to come and work and make a living, and do the best they can for everybody every single time they go to the ring. I commend them. I commend their passion. I commend their commitment and their want to keep his memory alive and honor the family. I think it's a great thing.
Me too, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect way to end it and talk about your book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice, Suggestions, Stories to Help the Aspiring Pro Get to the Next Level. Where can they get this awesome book?
Well, they can get that awesome book at jpwrestlingacademy.com. Right on the front page, you can click the order button or order gimmick, whatever it's called right there, and check it out. It's jpwrestlingacademy.com. We also have no, we don't. I was just going to say we have our next schedule up, but this is our last schedule for 2021, this class that's in session right now, and we have closed the doors to anybody who wants to enter the dungeon area. So, jpwrestlingacademy.com, all your needs and all the information is right there for you.
Nice, great stuff. And of course, you can go to Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com, get a Dr. Tom shirt or a JPWA shirt. You can follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on?
It's kind of a slow it's going to be a slow month in October. Then in Thanksgiving, we're going to WrestleCade. So the day after Thanksgiving, Friday and Saturday, we have a seminar, I believe, at AML on the I'll tell you, John, because this is October and we're getting ready for Halloween. But we have after that. Oh man, Thanksgiving. I know what Thanksgiving is last Thursday. Thanksgiving, we have a seminar at AML in Winston-Salem on the 26th, and then WrestleCade will be there on 27th. So
Nice.
looking forward to that. Yeah.
Nice.
Good times.
Yes, good stuff as always. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Thank you, Dr. Tom. We'll see everybody right back here next week for a little Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.